episode 9 of Player One Reviews. As you may know, I'm a fan of RPGs, and even more specifically, turn-based JRPGs. Now, having been a gamer since the mid-80s, it's hard for me to often find games that are new to me, that I haven't experienced before. However, thanks to the wise intelligence of my darling baby brother, I was able to track down a 32-bit RPG on the Sega Saturn. Today that's what we're going to have a look at. So, for this episode of Player One Reviews, we're going to be reviewing Albert Odyssey. Let's take a look. Originally planned to be released on the Super Nintendo, Albert Odyssey, which was developed by SunSoft, didn't make its first official appearance until 1996 on the Sega Saturn in Japan. North America had to wait an extra year before they got an English translation of the game, which was handled by Working Designs. I have to say that the team at Working Designs who localized this game did a pretty amazing job with the script. Keeping tradition with their special brand of humor made mundane tasks like talking to NPCs fun. As far as RPGs go, Albert Odyssey is not cheap. It clocks in usually around the $100 mark on eBay. Luckily, I was able to find a seller who was willing to work with me a little on the price, and I got mine a little bit cheaper. But the question would remain throughout the whole time I was playing it is, was it worth it? And did I get the value for the money that I paid for this hidden gem? The game starts with the main character being a child in the midst of a battle. In the only portion of the game to have voice acting, we see the hero's family getting butchered by a horde of monsters. However, the little guy is saved by Laia, a beautiful harpy who takes him home and raises him as one of her own. The game then jumps ahead 10 years, and our hero is all grown up and loving his new life in the land of the harpies. That is, until his new home is attacked by an evil wizard. Dun dun dun. And his sister is turned to stone by his magic. So like any good farm boy turned protagonist, Pike, as the hero is named, decides to head out into the world to save his sister and get revenge on the wizard. It's a pretty generic story in all honesty. Boy has family slaughtered, new family's in danger, he dons the mantle of savior and heads out into the world to mete out justice. On the way, he inevitably encounters other like-minded individuals who are on their own missions and end up joining forces with our hero. So let's talk about them now for a moment. Pike is our main character, and other than his father's magic sword, he has nothing left to him of the childhood that was forcefully ripped away in the game's intro. Let's just hope he's got what it takes to get the job done. Eka becomes Pike's first friend outside of the Harpy Forest, and she vows that she'll remain by his side forever. As far as useful character goes, she is one of the best, with her ability to use both weapons and magic with fairly good proficiency. As a high priest in the city of Solus, Leos learned much about the healing arts, as well as how to be a deadly combatant in hand-to-hand combat. However, she is only with the party for the first part of the game, and is later replaced by another. From a race of people known as the Dragon Men, for obvious reasons, Grizz is a pretty solid addition to the group. His physical attacks are often the most damage, and as well, having the only group heal available for most of the game, he manages to save your butt more than once. A preening, egotistical warrior, Amon is from a race of bird people, and he's the most plain member of the group. His attacks are middle of the road, his special ability is an AoE that isn't really all that special, and he really doesn't bring much to the table outside of the occasional joke about being pretty or wanting to get better acquainted with a lady on the screen. Last up is Kia. She shows up after the midpoint of the game to let you know that all is not well in Munchkinland. She's a pretty much straight-up magic user whose spells range from direct damage to debuffing the enemy. To go along with your party is a host of regular NPCs that keep popping up. All in all, the characters are amusing, and some of the dialogue actually made me laugh out loud. Is it the deepest group of individuals I've ever seen depicted in a game? Not by a long shot, but they were also far from the worst either. With its top-down view and turn-based combat, Albert Odyssey feels very much like any other JRPG of the 90s. You talk to NPCs, rummage through people's chamber pots, and move from town to town, getting stronger weapons and armor to allow you to take on the more difficult enemies. However, it lacks a lot of the things that chase some people away from the RPG genre. I never had to do any forced grinding to advance the story. As I arrived in each new town, I always had sufficient money to outfit my party in the finest new digs. there isn't a confusing and elaborate leveling system. As characters gain a level, their stats simply increase. Also, new monsters I would encounter never really felt like much of a challenge. In fact, it might have been a little too easy, as the only time I even saw a character death animation was somewhere around 20 hours in with Kia during a boss fight when I just wasn't paying attention. The combat is simple enough that if you mash A, you'll be able to get through most fights without looking at the screen, except for one minor detail that I found to be a major frustration. Load times. From the screen spinning into blackness to the first move of the combat was a ridiculously long duration. I found myself wondering if my game had frozen on a number of occasions, as the characters bounced back and forth happily, awaiting the disc-based system to finish accessing the portion reserved for battle. Okay, that might have been an exaggeration. However, here it is in real time. Not exactly lightning fast, and it's a great opportunity to leave comments on whatever YouTube channel you're watching while you play. Would the game have had faster load times if it had remained cartridge-based? Perhaps. But then it would have lost out on what is one of the shining points of Albert Odyssey: the graphics. This game looks gorgeous. It's no secret that I love sprites, and Albert Odyssey renders them in glorious 32-bit majesty. If only the N64 had stayed true to its 2D ancestors and not jumped into the land of polygons so soon. Too soon, if you ask this gamer. Imagine a world where Ocarina of Time is a top-down sprite-filled joyride, instead of being annoyed by the only sprite in that Hyrule. Think how much Smash Bros. Could have dominated the fighting genre if it had emerged into the scene with versions of our favorite Nintendo characters in this format, instead of poorly shaped blocks that barely resemble a person. I love the look of this game. The characters are lively, the backgrounds are beautifully drawn, and even though I am the biggest advocate of graphics don't make a good game, I will happily say that they don't hurt when they look this good. The music of Albert Odyssey is as you'd expect with a JRPG from this era. It's melodic and light on the overworld and in towns. The combat is fast-paced and filled with energy, and the boss battles are... boss. When P2 asked me what I thought of the soundtrack, my initial reaction was, it's okay. I'm not moved by it like with Final Fantasy IV or VI, but I'm not put off by it either. It's lukewarm, and that's fine by me, as I prefer listening to the latest episode of Narc Podcast or Retro Rejects anyway. So where does that leave us? A game with a price tag of over $100 should be fantastic, shouldn't it? Is this what we can expect from a game that has climbed in value during our time collecting? Mediocre combat, middle-of-the-road music, and some witty dialogue? At the end of my time with Albert Odyssey, I asked myself if it was worth what it had cost, and for me the answer wasn't easy. But I realized after some questioning that it was worth it. I had just experienced a game in a genre that I love that I had previously known nothing about. It made me want to look more into working designs. It made me want to look more into the Saturn library, and most importantly, it had been fun. Albert Odyssey had much more to offer than slow load times and a generic story. It was unexplored territory, and I don't know a person alive that doesn't wonder what lies just on the other side of that fence from time to time. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you liked this review, please check out some of the ones my brother has done. He's widely accepted as the better gamer anyway, so his opinion might actually help you make a good decision. Also, be sure to check out the forums for the Cartridge Club to see what game we're playing this month and to get in on the discussion with an amazing group of people that tune in every single month. Until next time, this is Player One, signing off.